Holy shit. Guys, I have just come up with a theory, a film theory. Now, anybody who knows me, and anybody who watches my channel, knows that I root real loud for the Philadelphia Eagles. But this video isn't for that. We're not talking Eagles football today. No. We're talking a theory I came up with. Let me explain. So, first this. Any Saturday morning cartoon aficionado worth their salt probably knows, or at least they should know, about a cartoon that aired in the 60s called Wacky Races. Now, why I'm bringing up Wacky Races when it's not the show my theory is based on is because, folks, it kind of is. Because in the Wacky Races, you had this character named Penelope Pitstop. Now, let me explain. And you had this character called Penelope Pitstop, and you had these other characters, 7 guys in a car, called the Anthill Mob. Now, in Wacky Races, these two people, of course, they were racing each other. They won, they weren't the only ones. You had Penelope Pitstop, you had the Anthill Mob, you had the Red Max, you, of course, had Dick Dastardly and Muttley. They got their own spin-off show. Dastardly and Muttley and their flying machines. Funnier than shit. I suggest you give it a watch. You had Peter Perfect, and you had, the Gruesome Twosome. You had the Slag Brothers in the Slag Brothers in there. You had fucking Pat Pending. You had all bunch of crazy people. That's why they called it the Wacky Races. The races were literally wacky, and it was really funny to watch. Now, I want to call out Penelope Pitstop because not only did Dick Dastardly and Muttley get their own show, but Penelope Pitstop got hers as well. Her show is called The Perils of Penelope Pitstop. Now, for those of you that know the premise of the show already, it doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give it an introduction anyway because I'm going to assume that most of the folks watching this video do not. Now, for those of you who are, in fact, unaware of what Perils of Penelope Pitstop actually is and what it entails, it's about Penelope Pitstop, of course, and she's in peril. Good for me, I get a gold fucking star. But there's more to it than that. See, the reason she's in peril in the first place is because in the show, Penelope is an heiress that has inherited a large fortune. A lot of money. We're talking millions, possibly billions, with a B. All right? Never specified how much, but it's a lot. Now, her guardian's name, not her parent, not her father, not necessarily her uncle, but I think he's her uncle. At least headcanon that he's her uncle, is named Sylvester Sneakley. Now, what you need to understand about Sylvester Sneakley is he is, in reality, the villain of the show. His assumed identity, his bad guy, he's the bad guy, he's the Hooded Claw. What he's trying to do as the Hooded Claw is he is trying to kill Penelope so that he can get her money. Because if anything happens, if Penelope croaks, Sneakley gets the cash, right? So Sylvester Sneakley disguises himself as the Hooded Claw. He's got 2 henchmen known as the Bully Brothers. But Penelope also has an answer to the henchmen. She's got henchmen of her own. The Anthill Mob from the Wacky Races. Only this version of the Anthill Mob, it's basically based on the 7 Dwarves. You've got Clyde as the leader. You've got leader Clyde. You've got Zippy, he's basically the Flash. You've got Softy, he cries all the time. You've got Yak Yak, he laughs all the time. You've got Snoozy, he's always sleeping. He's basically sleepy. You've got, let's see, there are 2 more. You've got, who am I missing? You've got, let's see, Pockets. Pockets. He's the one with all the gadgets. He's the one that, has basically mastered hammer space, all right? He's got all the gadgets, and he's got an infinite amount of storage space to put them, right? And let's see, who am I missing? Clyde, Zippy, Pockets, Snoozy, Softy, Yak Yak. You had one other one. I forget his name, but... oh, Jesus Christ. I forget his name. But anyway, the Ant Hill Mob, this isn't what this video is about, right? But I'm trying to explain the premise of the show so you guys get the idea. But, Penelope had her Ant Hill Mob, and they were her protectors, and it was their job to save her. And the thing about Penelope Pitstop is I like this show because it's actually rather progressive for the time it was made in the, late 60s. In which the damsel, the so-called damsel, Penelope Pitstop, is actually, rather, she's actually very clever, very resourceful. In fact, she usually manages to rescue herself, actually. She sometimes does not need saving. In fact, there are times during the show when she actually has to save the Anthill Mob. She actually has to rescue her would-be rescuers. And... it's actually really interesting, and what the Hooded Claw does is he puts her in, peril. That's why we're calling it the perils of Penelope Pitstop. He puts her in these traps, and there are these complicated ways of killing her. Now, why doesn't he just shoot her? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to be pegged for the murder. I don't know. But that's not my theory. No, my theory is this. So Penelope Pitstop comes from money. She comes from a rich family, obviously, and these people own businesses. Now... my theory is that the Pitstop family owns a monopoly. All right? They own a monopoly, these people. Because, look, you see the Pitstop name everywhere in the show. Now, it's a 17-episode, one-season show. It didn't last long. I'm binge-watching it. I'm like 7 or 8 episodes in to a 17-episode show. And I've already seen some things, man. I've seen some shit that backs up my theory really nicely. And these pit stops, they own basically everything. I have seen a pit stop water tower. I have seen a pit stop electricity. I've seen, a pit stop department store. In fact, one of the shows takes place in that freaking pit stop department store. Are you shitting me? Why, I've even seen a pit stop trolley line. Folks, I don't know whether to call this a real monopoly or not. Maybe I'm using the word wrong. But these pit stops own everything. They're like the Walt Disney of this fucking place, okay? They own water treatment, possibly sewage. They've cornered the energy market. They own electricity. They own the grid. They own the electrical grid. They own department stores. And not only that, but they actually own public transportation. I would not be surprised if these people owned a city and named it Pitstopolis, for Christ's sake. It's literally that fucking bad. Now, for those of you, who are wondering where I get this whole monopoly idea from, Mattpat, I'm sending this video out to you. You can actually explain what a monopoly is and the various kinds of monopolies because I don't have time for that shit. It's New Year's Eve. I want to get drunk. So, yeah, yeah, I'm going to engage in some drinking sessions after I record this shit. So, basically what a monopoly is, this show takes place. Let me give you some historical context. This show takes place between the Great War, that is to say World War I, 1914 to 1918. I'm talking trench warfare, mustard gas, the Red Baron, the Somme, Verdun, World War I. And the Great Depression. Takes place between the Great War and the Great Depression. That leads me to believe that we are in a roaring 20s situation, all right? Now, let me explain something to you about the 1920s. In the 1920s, we had a problem with, the economy was great. It was booming. That's why we called it the roaring 20s. It was a roaring economy. It was a good time. It was a great time to be alive if you were rich. Now, let me explain what the problem was, though. You had these things called monopolies. When you think of monopoly, you tend to think of the board game invented after the time frame of the show, invented during the Great Depression so people could pretend to be rich. But you have these things called monopolies. Now, when most people think of monopolies, they think of the board game. But when I think of monopolies, I'm a student of history. So I think of Carnegie, I think of J.P. Morgan, people like them. Carnegie, Morgan, Ford. I don't know if Ford was actually a monopoly, but I think about him, Henry Ford. And my theory is this. It's a Pitstopoly, all right? The Pitstop Monopoly, the Pitstop family monopoly. These people own public transport. Again, these people own public transit. They own water treatment, possibly sewage. Saw their name on a water tower. They own department stores, and they own the grid, the electrical grid. All right? They've even got, Penelope in one episode is trying to win the Pitstop Cup. All right? Now, I'm pretty sure that that's only sponsored by the Pitstop family. I don't think that the Pitstops actually own the, it's probably they're probably the thing's main sponsor, which is why they got their name on the, award in the first place. But folks, that leads me to my part one. The Pitstop family owns a monopoly. Part two. The Hooded Claw is the good guy. Let me repeat myself. The good guy. All right, let me explain to you why I think that. The Hooded Claw is, monopolies damage the economy in the long game. Now, I read on the internet that Sylvester Sneakley, alias the Hooded Claw, happens to be a lawyer. Now, back in those days, monopolies were legal, so obviously there was nothing Sneakley could do legally in the courtroom to stop the madness. So what he did was, he disguised himself as the Hooded Claw, okay? Got rid of Penelope's parents. Dead, missing, I don't care. They're gone. They're out of the picture. Now he's trying to work on Penelope. And the reason he wants Penelope dead isn't so he can collect the money. Oh, he wants the money because who doesn't want extra money, right? That's a side benefit. But the real reason he wants Penelope dead is because he wants to stop the monopoly in its tracks, whatever it takes, even if he has to resort to blue murder, which he does because monopolies are legal, so he can't do anything legally to stop the monopoly. So he is stopping the monopoly and therefore helping the economy of these United States the only way he thinks he can, and that's to kill Penelope Pitstop. Now, that would make him an anti-hero. He's not a villain, but he's not a hero because he's not a villain because like I said, he's the good guy, but he's not a hero because he's using less than moral means, read murder, to accomplish his goals. That would make him an anti-hero. The Pitstop family owns a monopoly, and the Hooded Claw is trying to kill Penelope because that's the only way that he believes he can end the monopoly and possibly make the economy that much better, make the country that much better, give other people a chance to compete on the market. The reason monopolies damage the economy is because we are a capitalist country. We are a capitalist country, the United States. And capitalism emphasizes competition. If there's a monopoly, there cannot be any competition because other companies can't get a word in edgewise because the monopoly owns everything. And if other companies can't get a word in edgewise, there's no competition and the economy goes flat. And that's why the Hooded Claw, Sylvester Sneakley, is the good guy. He is trying to stop the monopoly, give other companies a chance to compete in the market. He's trying to A, stop the monopoly. B, get other companies to be able to compete in the market. Make other companies able to compete in the market, which would C, contribute to the economy and make it even better. Now, that won't stop the Great Depression, but it would make the economy better, at least in the short game. And that's what I think Sylvester Sneakley is trying to do. I think he's trying to make the economy better. Now, Mattpat can explain this better than I, which is why the last point of this video is I am asking Mattpat to please, if you find this premise interesting, make a video on this. Make an episode on this. I've even come up with a name for it. The Perils of the Pitstopoly. Yeah. I'm I'm a loyal theorist. I watch your show, love supporting your channel. I'm subscribed to Game Theory and Film Theory. Yeah, food theory isn't necessarily my cup of tea, but Game Theory and Film Theory, hey, that's a clap. That's a clap. That's some fucking major kudos from me. I love your Game and Film Theory channels. And this is a film theory that I'd like you to do. I'm begging you, on my knees. I will summon fucking Cthulhu. I will awaken the goddamn great old ones. Please, just do a theory on this. Do a theory. Again, basic premise. Pitstop family owns a monopoly. Hooded Claw's the good guy because he's trying to stop it. I've given you my proof. I've given you my evidence. It's up to you, to kind of expound on it, kind of do an episode on it, because you can explain this a lot better than me, and frankly, you're a lot more entertaining than I am at this crap. So please, do an episode, and major kudos to you. Do an episode. It's the Perils of the Pitstopoly, and the show is, of course, The Perils of Penelope Pitstop. So I'm out for now. I'm going to go get drunk, engage in some fucking drinking sessions. I think you know where to find me. I've got a YouTube channel. I'm going to post this on the Game Theorist Reddit, because apparently there's no Film Theorist Reddit, because apparently no one bothered to make one, so Game Theorist Reddit it shall be. Thank you for hearing me out, Mattpat, and again, this is just a theory. A film theory. And cut.